All right.
Hello.
Welcome back, nerds. The video you've all been waiting for. Millions of people around the world.
Millions.
Oh. Okay. You know.
Maybe 10.
Maybe 10. This is going to be our starter horror book video. Like, if you want to get into horror and you don't know where to start, we're going to throw out our recommendations. We're not, we haven't read every horror book ever, but it's something we'd like to get into. I grew up watching horror movies, so I know like various subgenres, and I'll try to explore those sometimes. So yeah, we're going to do like we did last time. We're going to use our token colander with prompts that we came up with for this, and we'll sort of share some stuff. We're going to cheat probably and recommend extra things. We'll even, one thing I will bring up at the end is we'll talk about some authors in general to try out, because I find that, I don't know, I feel like when you're in a bookstore, the fantasy might be the easiest genre to actually navigate on the shelf, in my opinion. I don't know, I feel like the books themselves kind of stand out.
Yeah.
Whereas horror, a lot of times you're looking at the author name, and the titles don't always go together. Like an author in horror might have 10 different books with 10 very different titles, whereas, in fantasy, it's like a fire and fire, a fire and ice, a fire and lightning. And it's like, okay, those all obviously go together. So, anyways, enough rambling. Let's go into this. Like I said, these are recommendations. You might not like them. Horror is such a wide genre, so we'll talk about that as we get into it. But these are just books that we have liked, that we would say, okay, if this is what you're thinking, try this. So, you ready?
Yep.
All right, Marissa's going to pull our first prompt.
Okay.
I wrote them, so she's got to read my handwriting.
Okay, what would you recommend for someone who wants an updated classic idea?
Oh man, we're hitting hard right away, huh?
I know.
So my idea with this prompt was, if you watch any horror video on YouTube, they're going to recommend things like Dracula and Frankenstein and Jekyll and Hyde and The Invisible Man and stuff like that. Like, they're going to hit you with those classics. They're going to hit you with the classic Poe, all that. But for a modern audience, what's fun about horror is there have been a lot of authors that have taken those ideas you see in classic horror and they've updated them and done their own take on them. So I thought it could be kind of fun to say, what is a classic horror story that's been updated for like a modern read? So I'm going to let Marissa go first on this one because she has a good one to bring up.
Well, I'm going to cheat. I'm actually talk about two. So the first one would be Usher's Passing by Robert McCammon. This is kind of an updated take on the fall of the House of Usher. It was one of the first Robert McCammon books that I read, and I really enjoyed it. He has a really good writing style. The characters have really good internal struggles. Like, you want to like them, but at the same time, you kind of don't like them. And that was definitely the case in Usher's Passing. It's a bit of a chunky book. I want to say it was like 400 pages, so it is a bit of a read. Another book that's kind of a take on that classic, The Fall of the House of Usher, is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. That one's a really, really short book. Like, I want to say I read it in like a day.
I moved. Yeah, quick.
And that one's really good. T. Kingfisher is one of my favorite authors, and she kind of bridges that line between horror and fantasy. I will say her books are a little bit more quirky. So if you like something that's a little bit more straightforward, then I would say Robert McCammon, like, that's more true horror. Whereas T. Kingfisher, like, she definitely has a sense of humor in her books. And it's a quirky sense of humor. I think that's why I like it, because it's funny, and the characters their internal dialogue is what makes the books so special. But if you wanted an updated take on that classic Edgar Allan Poe, Fall of the House of Usher, you could either do Usher's Passing by Robert McCammon, or if you want something that's a little bit more out there, has a little bit more of a humorous undercurrent maybe to it, then What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher.
Yeah, and it's quicker too.
Yes.
So,
So you can see if that's even really something that you
like, I would argue, play like 5 Degrees of Kevin Bacon here, where let's say you watch on Netflix the what did they call it, The Fall of the House of Usher or whatever? I don't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
The guy who did The Haunts of Hill House, Bly Manor, he did the why he's an amazing director. Why am I not thinking of his name right now? I'm so mad at myself for that. But anyways, he's going to do he's going to do The Dark Tower too, apparently. So But if you watch that House of Usher TV show on Netflix, and you're like, ooh, I wonder like where that came from, but you don't necessarily like want to go all the way back to Edgar Allan Poe. You're like, I just want to kind of see that idea again. Then go with one of her 2 picks because you'll get that feeling out of them.
Mike Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan, that's his name. So yeah, my updated horror recommendation. I definitely cheated on this one. So I decided not to even touch classic books. I touched classic horror film, and I decided to go with slashers because I knew, people have seen Frankenstein, Dracula, and stuff like that. So I was like, let's do something fun. Let's say you grew up and you grew up with those slashers, the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Friday the 13th, the Halloween, even your Black Christmas, or I forget the one where he dresses up like Santa Claus and stabs someone with an antler. But anyways, which is important to the story I'm going to bring up. You could go with, which is another quirky author, but hear us out. You can go with Grady Hendrix's Final Girl Support Group, which is kind of a fun take of what if the final girl of each of those like franchise slasher villains were in a support group with each other, like trying to come to terms with their trauma and all that, and then stuff starts ramping up. So it's almost like now there's something hunting the final girls who were all final girls before. So I thought it was a fun read. You get a lot of fun little Easter eggs if you know your slasher movies. Like you get a lot of little like, oh, that's clearly the survivor of the Freddy Krueger person. That's clearly the survivor of the Jason person. And Grady Hendrix just gives you a bunch of nods and stuff towards the franchises. They're not literally the Freddy Krueger survivor. It's like the Nightmare Killer, So it's like, it's kind of off-brand, but you know what it is if you read it. You're like, oh, that's clearly this. And you get some that maybe you don't remember as well, like the Christmas one, which I cannot think of the name of right now, but it's the main character is the survivor of that one. So anyways, Final Girl Support Group could be a fun place to kind of start if you grew up liking slasher movies and you want to like feel rewarded for watching all that. Because sometimes you watch those movies and you're like, no one cares that I watch these movies. Like, I recently rewatched all the Friday the 13th, and I think I have like a hot take opinion that 4, 5, and 6 are better than 1, 2, and 3. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. So moving on, anyways, that was an interesting first one to pull.
That wasn't
because that was definitely one of the later prompts I came up with. It's like, what can you do to get into it, but not necessarily go all the way backwards? All right, what's our next one?
Which one would you recommend for an audiobook experience?
Ooh, audiobook experience. I'll go first on this one because I just finished it, so it's fresh in my mind. If you want to get into horror and you want to have so the thing about audio books is I feel like horror is the genre that can be made or broken with the audio experience, because the narrator of horror has to pull you into the atmosphere, I think, more than fantasy, more than romance, more than all that stuff. And I feel like if you don't have a good narrator for horror, you're not going to enjoy the book at all. And so my go-to now that I've done it, and I'm like, yes, it's going to be Sarafina by Philip Fricassi. That audiobook experience was phenomenal. To bring it up, I've talked about it in previous videos, but it's about 3 Confederate soldiers who are brothers who decide to basically desert the army after they lose the Battle of Shiloh. And they're like, we're done with this. We're not going to win. They don't want to follow Beauregard because he's just, if you know your history, then things were getting desperate at that time. So they want to go home. And along the way, they end up coming to this strange farm run by a woman named Sarafina. And stuff starts happening that's scary and horrific to the brothers. And the story goes from there. Now, the reason the audiobook experience was awesome is the guy who voices the main character, Ethan. He just sounds exactly as you would picture it in your head as he's reading this Mississippi boy who's 17 years old, but he's older than he should be because he's seen things he shouldn't see as a 17-year-old. And so you get fully immersed into the story. So if you want an audiobook experience that'll give you horror, and it gives you horror by the end, you're like, oh my God. Sarafina by Philip Fricassi. That's my go-to. So what would you say your audio experience is?
Okay, so to be honest, I don't do a whole lot of horror audiobooks. So I had a harder time with this one. The the last horror book that I did on audio was The Caretaker by Marcus Kliewar.
Is that the one who did
We Used to Live Here?
We Used to Live Here? Okay.
Yeah, he also wrote We Used to Live Here. So that was the last audiobook that I did that was horror. It was fine. Like, I wouldn't say that the audio version is anything spectacular. I have done a lot of audio books by Riley Sager. I think that's a good, like, he's a good author to try if you're not sure you're going to like horror or thriller as a genre. Because his books are kind of, I don't want to say easy, but like, they're kind of easy to digest. Like, there's nothing super crazy happening to where you kind of have to wrap your brain around it.
Yeah, if you're a horror fan, you know there's levels of like, all right, I want my cut through. I just want that B-horror experience versus I want something that's going to melt my brain for 5 hours afterwards.
Right. So his are not like brain melters. So I feel like those are good. His books are good to do on audiobook. I've also done a lot of Frieda McFadden books on audiobook. She's more thriller maybe than horror, but I also have found that her books, the narration kind of plays into the like, oh my God, like that actually happened of the book. And I think both of those are good authors to maybe try if you've never tried a horror book before or a thriller, that might be a good place to start. But yeah, I don't typically do a lot of audio horror. I don't know why. Maybe because I feel like I'd be more scared if I did it on audio. Yeah.
I'm more of the horror immersive person here.
Yeah.
I'm going to hate myself for doing this right now because I'm going to have to fix it in editing. But I've heard The Exorcist on audio is really good. I have not done it yet. A buddy of mine has. I heard that's really good. I heard that a few other things. So anyways, The Exorcist, and I'll have to fix this in editing. Our daughters had a whole trauma thing just now. So doing gymnastics in the house, and that always goes wonderfully. But yeah, horror is a good one. You can just Google good audio experiences. But yeah, I've heard The Exorcist. The Ballad of Black Tom was pretty good when we did that one. The Knock at the Cabin was good.
Yeah, Hill House.
Hill House is good. So I'm not going to put all these covers up on here because that's going to be too much work in editing for me. But yeah. So our two actuals are Sarafina and The Caretaker. Yes. But you could go look up lists for audio experiences pretty easily. That's how I found most of mine. Yep. All right, next prompt.
All right, what would you recommend for someone who wants a Stephen King book?
All right. So our Stephen King recommendations. So we actually, between the both of us, we've read a good chunk of Stephen King, I want to say. Like, we have dabbled enough. Like, he has an extensive backlog. And I have issues with Stephen King. I think he's a phenomenal writer. I just think his editors need to man up a little or something and like tell him to cut out some of the extra stuff that don't need to be in his books. Yeah. But other than that, I'm like, and I mean, I don't know, maybe this isn't going to be good for YouTube, but him and his son with random sexual things in their books, which I'm not a prude, but like, I love The Stand, but I don't need the scene where someone's shoving a Colt 45 up somebody's butthole. So, anyway, sorry, might have to edit that out. But, all right, Stephen King recommendations. So I'm going to let you go first because I'm going to talk about two. I'm going to cheat. So,
okay. Well, unlike him, I will come out and say I actually don't really like Stephen King. I don't. He's not an author that I have honestly read that much of. The two books that I have read by him and actually kind of liked were The Shining and Misery. Out of those two, I'd probably recommend The Shining only because Misery as a book is not as good as the movie. So if you're like, oh, this idea, the concept behind Misery is intriguing to me, I would say go watch the movie. It's better than the book. But if you actually want to read a Stephen King book, I would say The Shining. That one actually did kind of scare me. I enjoyed it much more than any of the other books by him that I've tried. But yeah, I'm not really a King fan, so my recommendation is not that original, I guess.
Yeah, The Shining is the one that everyone brings up. And ironically, that's the one I have not read yet. I mean, obviously I've seen the movie, but I don't know why. I started it, I just never got around to finishing it. I need to do that one. But The Shining is the go-to for most people. Most people say, read The Shining if you're going to read Stephen King. Just go right into The Shining. I'll throw some other ones at you real quick just because these are Misery, like she brought up. So Misery is a good book. The reason why the movie is better is you have Kathy Bates, who's a phenomenal actress. She is Annie Wilkes. That's why they will never refilm that movie, in my opinion, because you cannot beat that.
No.
But the book has this thing in it, and it drove me mad. Okay? It's not a spoiler. It's more of a forewarning. The premise of Misery is that there's an author who writes it's almost like a Southern romance, gothic. I don't know what it is. He writes his own book series called Misery.
Yeah. And
the main character's name is like Misery Chastain or something, right? And and it's just, if you're going into reading Misery, you're definitely not going in to read that. You're going in to read the horror. And so while the author is trapped by this woman, Stephen King just thought it would be a fun idea to just write a book inside of his book and actually have you read like huge chunks of the Misery Chastain story in the book. Mm-hmm. And that book sucks. Like, it's boring and it's not fun to read. I won't lie. I skimmed it. I was like, I don't care. I want to go back to what's happening in the horror part of the story. Yeah. So imagine like you're watching, imagine if you were watching the movie and Kathy Bates left the room, and then all of a sudden the screen like focused in and just like transitioned to the Southern romance story for like 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
So Misery's a great book. Just saying, I skimmed the actual parts where he puts misery in the book, like the parts of the book that he was. I don't know.
It's a book within a book.
I hated that. I hated it. Like maybe watching the movie first was what killed it for me, but I was like, oh my God, no wonder this was cut out the movie. This is terrible.
I feel like because I watched Dr. Sleep before I read the book, that ruined the book for me. Like I thought
that's the problem with Stephen King is the movie adaptations are good to the point where you don't like, it's a good example. I mean, I grew up with I watched the 90s miniseries, not when it came out, but later because I was born in 92, but like, and then, I watched the new movies that recently came out, and I remember trying to go in and read the book. I'm like, I know everything that's going to happen, and YouTube has thoroughly spoiled the things that didn't happen in the movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I couldn't get into it, and that's a me problem. I'm aware, but yeah, my favorite Stephen King recommendation is The Long Walk. So they recently made the movie for it. I couldn't put The Long Walk down. It is a beautiful story that'll depress you and make you cry at the end. I don't know. It's just boys who are in this version of America where there's this competition walk where they got to stay walking and the last one standing wins something. It's never really explained in the book what you win. Is it a wish? Is it money? Is it something great? I know the movie changes the ending a little bit, but I haven't seen the movie yet. But when you're reading the book, you get Stephen King is a great character writer. You get so attached to those boys that as they're slowly being killed off, you're like, because to be honest, the character you're following, while he's not an unlikable character, there are at least 3 other characters that you were like, you want to win more than him.
Yeah.
Sorry, my stutter came out there. But you're like, I like Ray Garrity or whatever, but that guy should win. He's got like a wife and kid at home.
Yeah.
And that guy should win because he's got this going on. And you're like, I don't know who should win. So anyways, The Long Walk is my Stephen King recommendation. But it's not horror. It's more of just like depression in a book. If you want the horror, people say The Shining. The Shining is what you should go for. All right, we got to move on.
Okay.
I could talk for 4 hours on horror, so Marissa's got to cut me off. Next prompt.
All-out horror. What would you recommend for an all-out horror book? No holds
barred. Like, I don't got to worry about making the person mad or offending them or trigger warnings or anything like that. I'm going to get into trigger warnings later. I'm going to talk about something. But all-out horror. So normally, I would recommend The Troop by Nick Cutter. But I feel like I've talked about that in a few other videos. I want to recommend a weird one. I think her name is Gretchen-Felker Martin. Yeah, I got it right here. Hold up. So, nope, I grabbed Black Mouth. That's funny.
Good job.
I do have a Malfi book on this list later. Here we go. Cuckoo, and I'll put it on the screen. All right. So, I got a fun backstory with this book. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know if y'all remember, but a few years ago, or maybe just 1 year ago, I don't know, time flies, they had that movie that came out called Cuckoo, and it has like the girl riding a bike, and an old lady starts chasing her down the street, and I was like, ooh, that looks scary. That movie was not that scary. That was like the only scary part in it. Anyways, I was at Second and Charles, I think. Yeah. And I saw this book on the table and I was like, oh, is this like the book that movie was based off of? And my ADHD self just grabbed it without reading the back. Because I was like, whatever, the movie was interesting. I wonder if the book's better. It's not the same thing at all. Not even remotely. This book, the reason I'm picking this for all out horror is this one is freaking crazy. So let's start with, it is a horror story about a conversion camp. They send boys and girls there who are homosexual or have sexual identities different from being straight, right? And the idea is that they're supposed to be converted, but it gets goddamn crazy. There's odd cosmic horror involved. There's weird creatures. There's this camp stuff. It floats between their time in the camp and a previous person's time in the camp. And then it even has that Stephen King moment where they get out and then they have to come back later and deal with the consequences of what happened. This book blew my mind because I didn't know what I was getting into. Yeah. And it really goes places that I would recommend this book for people who are like, I want something that's going to make me just go, oh my God, what am I reading right now? So I would recommend Cuckoo by Gretchen-Felker Martin. I thought she also wrote another one called Manhunt. I haven't read that one yet. But anyways, yeah, this one was really good. I enjoyed it. There were parts of it that I was just like, it made me uncomfortable, but in the way that I want horror to make me uncomfortable. So The Troop, or if you want to go with something really interesting, Cuckoo by Gretchen Martin. All right, what's your all-out pick?
Mine would be Boys in the Valley by Philip Fricassi. I think that's a good all-out pick because it deals with a lot of issues that maybe might be not for everyone, but if you are a horror reader, it's really good. It's written really well. There's boys in an orphanage. It's run by priests, and something starts making them not themselves. Leave it that way. That way it doesn't give too many spoilers. But yeah, it's a longer book, but I felt like it didn't feel like it. Fricassi's writing just kind of hooked me and kept me in the story, and I wanted to know what was going to happen next to the characters, because the characters, you're rooting for them, you want them to have their happily ever after in the story.
Because you already feel bad for them in the beginning, because their lives already suck.
Correct.
And most of them didn't have a choice in where they were. Mm-mm. And then for this thing to be thrown on top of them, yeah, and I love Boys in the Valley.
I think if you are like a fan of Stephen King, you might like Boys in the Valley.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah,
I think if you're a fan of, and I'll throw like a weird one out there, that Netflix zombie show that we were watching, where they're like trapped in the school.
Oh,
I don't remember the name of it. I'll try to put it up on the screen if I remember, but. It kind of gave me those vibes too. This idea of like, okay, all of a sudden, it's us versus them. How do we get out of this? You know, how do we survive? So, and there were a few moments in that book that I was like, I thought a character died, and I was upset. And then they have that heroic comeback moment, and I was like, yeah, get into it. So, anyways, you get those vibes from it. All right, Boys in the Valley. That's good. All right, what's our next prompt?
We're gonna keep that one for last.
Oh, okay.
Bite-sized horror. So something short, easy to read, but scary.
Well, you know what? This one also fits for audio for me, so I'm going to let you go first.
Okay.
I didn't think about it.
Okay, so I'm a huge T. Kingfisher fan, so I'm sorry if her books come up a lot. Also, I haven't read as much horror, so I tend to go by author versus, like, let me just try a random book I picked off at the table at Second and Charles.
Yeah, that's me. I'll just look at a book cover and be like, that sounds cool.
So one of T. Kingfisher's books that I recently read that genuinely scared me was called Wolfworm. It's her latest book. It was super short. Like, again, I think I finished it in like a day and a half. But in that book, our main character, she's like an illustrator, but she illustrates scientific things, but it's set in the 1800s. So as a female, she's not really allowed to do that on her own. So her father recently passed away and she got a job illustrating some weird doctor's bug collection. Okay. And it just kind of goes from there. Some weird things start happening to some of the animals at the house that they're living at. There's a weird stuff happening in the woods. The doctor goes into the woods. There's a bunch of wolf worms, which if you've never heard of those, you should look it up. And
they're kind of like screw worms, right?
Yeah. Look up what they do. It's great.
Just look up warbles on Google Images and you'll get it. It's pretty messed up.
But I thought it was an amazing book, and even though it was short, it had a twist at the end that I really did not see coming. Like I really wasn't expecting. I'll give it that, yeah. I wasn't expecting the ending. As a big T. Kingfisher fan, I will say my biggest quirk that I have with her books is that sometimes the endings don't stick. This time, I thought the ending was actually pretty good. I thought the twist that came about wasn't something that was expected. So
yeah, I will say T. Kingfisher, which at the end of the video, we're just going to talk about authors in general. I think the reason why I bounce off of her so much, I like her books, which is odd. I love the setup of her books. I love her characters. I love where it's always the endings always feel, if you want a horror author that gives you kind of like, if you're one of those people who want to go through a horror experience but want to feel good at the end and like it's not horrible and the world doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Go with T. Kingfisher because I feel like her endings they kind of uplift a little from where you were in the book, and sometimes I don't want that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I was telling her my issue with Wolfworm is I wanted it to go further.
Yeah.
Because you'll see if you read it. The twist in it is like, ooh, take that and now magnify it by 1,000. That's what I want. So it was a cool idea though. Mm-hmm. What are we doing? Bite size? Okay, so my bite size, I don't remember the author's name, do you? For this one? I'm gonna put it on the screen. I feel like it starts with a K. But I've never read anything else by it. This is one of those things that actually I read it on audio when I got it. And
I think I did the audiobook.
Yeah, too. And it was fun. So this one I'm going to recommend for bite size. You want something short that's weird and horror? Sour Candy. Sour Candy is this weird little story about this guy.
Kealan Patrick Burke.
Yeah, it'll be up there. I'll put the cover up there. So it's about this guy who goes to a grocery store one day, and there's this kid with his mom, and he is just acting a fool, and they're doing nothing but buying candy. And it's the mom looks ragged, worn out, like a mother is in Walmart with her child who's begging for candy. But something happens, and let's just say this child now becomes his possession. And the child is weird. The child only eats candy. Only lets there be candy in the house. And does things to reality. It is a terrifying story for people who never wanted to have kids. I will tell you that. It is one of the weirdest little short stories I ever read, and it was awesome. You should try Sour Candy. Sour Candy is just something you've not seen before. It's something that you will, and it's a good audio experience.
Yeah, it was.
So
it was.
It gets real weird at the end, and it gets cosmic horror-y, and it gets, just the concept behind it, this idea of like, you now have to take care of this kid, and no one believes you when you try to get rid of the kid. Yeah. Like it's weird. Ugh. I thought it was a fun little one. So, all right, what's our next prompt?
Someone who wants to test the horror waters. What would you recommend?
All right, somebody who just wants to dip their toe in, and they don't know. Maybe they hate horror movies, and they want to see if they like horror books, but they don't want to be scared. They don't want anything to be too crazy. So I'm going to let you go first because you're going to talk about Kingfisher again.
I am. Sorry, y'all.
Yep.
So my pick for that would be A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. It's just a really great book. The main character is very likable. She's dealing with a relatable experience. She's she's an anthropologist, but she specializes in bugs, I want to say. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure she's an anthropologist, but she specializes in bugs. And her job kind of got postponed, so she decides to go home to her mom to wait until her job is ready for her to go actually do her anthropology stuff. But her mom's been weird lately. Like, something's going on with her mom. She's done weird things to the house. There's some weird vultures that just kind of are chilling around the house. And then things start to happen to our main character as well. And she's starting to notice that things are not as they should be. I like this one as a Test the Waters book because the horror isn't super extreme. That's not even necessarily like the main current of the story throughout it. It's almost more like a daughter trying to figure out what's going on with her mom. Like, is she losing her mind? Is it dementia? Is, what's happening? But then as the horror starts to pick up, again, it's nothing super out there to where you're going to be traumatized and have to sleep with the lights on for the next week. Like, it's scary, but it's not something that's going to make you like scared to be in your house, I guess.
Yeah. This is a Kingfisher I haven't read yet that I need to, because it's one of the ones they always bring up. They're always like either House with Good Bones or Hollow Places. I did Hollow Places. I need to do House with Good Bones. So my Test the Waters, I'm going to go with a Malfi pick, a Ronald Malfi, because I haven't talked about Ronald Malfi yet. I'm not going to say Blackmouth. Instead, I would start with The Night Parade.
I really like that one. It's one of my favorite Malfi books.
Yeah, The Night Parade's a fascinating... if you have, if you liked the video game or if you've seen the TV show The Last of Us, you're going to like The Night Parade, because The Night Parade is it's got a similar concept of this dad trying to get his daughter out of a bad situation. Essentially, I don't want to say a lot because I feel like the discovery of this book is the biggest thing about it. This weird, almost avian starting disease starts spreading around, and it's causing people to act weird and do weird things, and it kind of fits in. It really does feel like The Last of Us with, okay, I need to get my daughter out of here. We need to get somewhere. We need to get somewhere safe. And weird things start happening from there. The daughter's got some strange stuff going on with her. It's cool how it ends. But I had a YouTube commenter say they were reading, and I forgot about this book, they're reading Come With Me.
That was a good one.
And that might also be a good Malfi one to start with.
That was actually, I think, the first Malfi book that I read, and I want to say that was like one of the first, outside of Darcy Coates, who I've been a Darcy Coates fan for a while. That was like the first book outside of Darcy Coates, first horror book outside of Darcy Coates that I read, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I know you kind of bounced off.
No, I liked it. I liked it.
But I think that one, Come With Me, kind of blends thriller and horror. Which
it's kind of a thriller mystery with a little horror into it. So the idea of Come With Me is there's a man whose wife is tragically killed in like a shooting at a grocery, at like a store, clothing store or something like that. And for all intents and purposes, that shooting, you're wondering, does that have anything to do with bigger picture stuff? And he discovers while grieving for his wife, she was investigating, because she was a journalist or something, right?
Yeah.
She was investigating this weird serial killer stuff. And so he kind of like tries to pick up the investigation so he could feel closer to his wife. And it has this beautiful moment in the end where everything comes full circle. And it is more of a thriller mystery in a sense of he's like taking over, hunting down this serial killer that nobody believed was a serial killer. Like, no one connected these murders together that his wife had started to connect. And you're following that journey. So if for a test your waters, I think it's perfect. Come With Me is a good test your waters horror book to kind of see if you'll be into some of the ideas. Because there are some scenes that are kind of creepy in it.
Yes.
There are some things, some ghosty type scenes. So I will say that is a good one to kind of test the waters with. All right. What's our next one? How many more we got? Like three? Three more. All right.
Personal go-to recommendation.
Personal go-to. So I'll go first on this one. I have no idea. I've talked about it in the previous video. I would say The Fisherman by John Langan. I know she bounced off of it. I've been trying to get her to reread it. It's just got an odd narrative structure. It's a nesting doll story about two men who bond over tragedy, and they end up finding out a local legend about a place called Dutchman's Creek. And that is like a good 50% of the book is the bartender telling them the legend of Dutchman's Creek, the story. So it's a nesting doll. You got, main characters, their problem. And then inside of that is this other story. And then it comes back to them and they go try to find Dutchman's Creek at the end and weird crap happens. So it's just, I thought it had horror and it had cosmic horror, which I love. And it had folk horror in it because when you go down to the legend part, the meta story inside of it, that's very folk horror-y, it feels. It still has one of the scariest scenes I've ever read in a book with this shed moment. That terrified me when I read it. I was like, I'm a big horror fan. And so reading doesn't always scare me. I just like the ideas. That one actually got me a little bit. I was like, ooh, I don't like that. So The Fisherman by John Langan would be my go-to horror rec. Like, go try it out. It's not even that long either. Like, you can get through it pretty quick. So that would be mine. What's your go-to?
This is one that I read recently. It's called The Watchers by A.M. Shine. There's also a movie on Netflix, but definitely read the book first because the book's better.
Yeah.
Basically, it's about our main character. I think her name is Nina. She's running an errand with a bird, like a parrot. She's supposed to go sell the parrot, something like that. But basically, she's driving through this like wooded area in Ireland. Her car breaks down. All the electronics start acting weird, and she's stranded. So she takes the bird, she walks into the woods trying to find someone who can maybe help her with her car, and she comes across this weird, like, bunker, and these people in the bunker who tell her about these creatures that come out at night and basically watch the people inside this bunker. And it's a story of how Nina and some of the other characters are trying to escape their imprisonment in this bunker with the weird creatures that are watching them. And I thought it was scary. Like the concept, the book, the concept was scary. The idea of being stranded in the woods, not being able to leave, not really having sufficient food or water, and knowing that there are these weird things that you don't understand watching you at night. It's pretty creepy. And then once you learn what the Watchers are, it's even more scary, I think. Yeah. So, I would definitely recommend that book. I've read another book by A.M. Shine. I believe it's called The Creeper. That one was also pretty scary. So if you want some short books that are kind of based in Irish folklore, and they're actually scary, I would check out A.M. Shine. Yeah,
The Watcher, or The Watchers. The reason why that book didn't sell me 100% is just because I've read a lot of horror. Mm-hmm. It's perfect for this list. It is a starter horror book, in my opinion. Like, it is great for that recommendation. It's the kind of thing that'll get you into it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that's going to explicitly turn you off. It's creepy. It's got an interesting mystery to it. It's got fascinating. It's got good enough characters that get you going.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The problem with the movie, ironically, the movie actually follows the book real close. The problem is it gives no soul to any of the parts.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes that happens, I think, when movies try to adapt 100% to the book. The characters just don't have soul in the movie.
It was very dry.
It's very dry. And so I was like, So, I don't know, the book was better because you get more time to simmer with the characters. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, all right. Let's do our next one.
Hidden Gem. What's a hidden gem horror book?
Hidden gem. I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. So I'm not as big of a horror reader as Brandon is. So I have like kind of go-to authors, and one of my go-to authors is Ronald Malfi. So I've read a good bit of his books. He's one of my favorites. I like how he kind of takes a little bit of inspiration from other horror novels. I think some people would compare some of his books to Stephen King, or like he gets inspiration from Stephen King.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, but we've talked about a couple of his books already that I really liked, but one that I really liked was Small Town Horror. I don't know, that one just really spoke to me, but really I think any of his books are a good place to kind of test the waters for horror, really.
Yeah.
Maybe not Blackmouth. I think
Blackmouth.
That one's a little bit more out there.
Yeah.
And a little bit more, I don't know, aggressive.
Depressing and aggressive. Yeah.
I
would say like go Small Town Horror and then go Blackmouth.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
Which I did it backwards like an idiot, but you know.
Yeah. Because I really like Small Town Horror. That's actually probably one of my favorite Malfi books. But yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, horror, what's their worst thing? What's their like craziest thing they've written? I want to start with that. So then I'll work my way backwards, which sometimes backfires on me. But
because you don't like the other ones.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Small Town Horror is cool too because it's like it's got that Stephen King coming of age vibe where it's like something happened in this town and now they're coming back in the future to kind of reconcile with it and figure it out. It's got some pretty creepy scenes with that basement.
The basement, that was creepy.
Yeah. So that's a good one. I like it. So, all right, my hidden gem is Mean Spirited by Nick Roberts, which I've talked about this in the previous video. My buddy Damien, he recommended this one to me about a haunted dog. Oh. So I want to talk about it a little bit more here because I realized I did not mention in the previous video that there is a giant trigger warning with this book. It is about a haunted dog. Mm-hmm. So there's some animals that get hurt in the book. There's a part where it's at the vet and it's doing things to the other animals in the vet. Aww. And it's sad. But I am one of those people who say, like, if you're going to get into the horror genre, you need to decide. This is a good list for that because, like, you needed to decide how far you want to get because the best horror writers aren't there to make you feel good. Yeah. They're there to make you feel uncomfortable. They're there to make you come to terms with yourself. And in fact, here is my argument. I don't think an author, now, there could be some that are a-holes, and I don't know it. But most of the time, I think authors put that stuff in their books because they want you to hate it. They want you to see that, and they want you to go, oh my God, I hate that. Why would somebody do that to an animal? Mm-hmm. Which in turn reinforces your justice ideals. Mm-hmm. You walk away from it going, that's wrong. You should not do that. So if I see someone or hear about somebody doing that, I'm going to stick up for the animals. It's meant to make you uncomfortable. It's meant to make you go, I don't like that. Like I've talked previously, I don't like when girls get sexually assaulted in books, in horror, because I have daughters. But I think that reinforces my drive to be more protective of my daughters, to pay attention to what they're doing, to be more aware of people out there and stuff like that. So I think horror, if you look at it, horror gets a bad rap, but it is a way of showing the negative sides of humanity so that we know what to look for. Yeah. Mean Spirited does that. It's got things in it that make you go, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable, but it's meant to. It's meant to make you go like, you should feel uncomfortable from that. Mm-hmm. Now, all right, public service announcement aside about horror books having things like animal cruelty in them. I get it. It sucks. You don't like it. You're supposed to not like it. If you read that book and go, haha, I like this, you're a psychopath. Okay? Anyways, Mean Spirited is about this dog, and it's gone. In the beginning, it goes like prologue. He goes through one owner. Creepy scene in the beginning with that, by the way. And then it ends up with a new owner, and he's divorced, and he's got his son that comes to visit, and he's like, oh, I'll get a dog because it'll like make my son, want to come hang out with me more. And he's not the best, like, likable dad. He becomes a little better as the story goes on. You kind of grow with him a little bit. The mom ends up being a little bit more likable, in my opinion, but it sort of goes from there, and they're trying to figure out all this weird stuff going on. They're trying to figure out what's up with the dog. There's interesting moments in it where, they kind of have that conversation of like, okay, can we just shoot the dog? I know that sounds horrible, and it's supposed to sound horrible, but if you're trying to protect your kids, right? Yeah. It's kind of like the Cujo thing. It's like, I don't know. It has good, fun, tough conversations in it. But all in all, it's a fun little book. Like, it's scary. It's got horrific scenes in it. It's short. I did it on audio, so you might want to try it on audio. Anyways, Mean Spirited by Nick Roberts might be a good little hidden gem that I think needs to get talked about more because I think it covers a lot of themes and topics that horror struggles with sometimes. Yeah. And I felt like it did a good job with it. Its ending is a little cheesy, too, so you get to have a little fun with the ending. Okay. So, all right.
Last one, special recommendation.
All right, special recommendation. So this is just us cheating and trying to think of another book that we could recommend as a starting point that didn't fit any of the prompts. So you want to go first?
I'll go first. Yeah. Okay. So my starting point into reading horror was Darcy Coates. She has a lot of books that are like haunted house. So if you're not really into like the haunted house idea, I have two by her that I think would be maybe a good place to start. The first one is From Below. This one's like this diving team goes out to investigate this boat that's been, sunk underwater for a long time. And weird stuff starts to happen. And there's, hidden agendas from the divers. It's creepy, especially when you consider like being underwater and how vulnerable we as humans are when we're like we're talking deep sea diving. We're not just like, oh, let's go look at the pretty coral reef.
They're in the Dead Sea, right?
Yeah. So it's I feel like it has like horror on different levels. There's like the horror of being around your fellow humans and not knowing what their hidden agenda could be, and are they actually out for your best interest. There's the horror of just being underwater and completely vulnerable to your equipment and the person who's in charge of like making sure your equipment is running properly.
Oh yeah.
And then there's like the horror of what's actually happening on the sunken ship.
Yeah, and it's dual story because you get the modern them trying to find the sunken ship, and you also get flashbacks to what happened to the ship.
Yes.
And what's cool about the Dead Sea, and I don't know, Darcy Coates did her research, I'm assuming, but as I learned about it through this, which is sad because I should have known this already, but the Dead Sea is called that because it's like apparently super salty. And because it's super salty, nothing lives in it. And so the whole thing about it is that it preserves shipwrecks really well because they go under and they get preserved by all the salt. And there's no bacteria that can live down there. And that plays a role in it. So when they're finding the bodies and stuff on the ship, they're not decayed away and stuff like that like they should be in normal. So you get a little hint, you get a little zombie vibes from it.
And then the other, she has an extensive like you Google Darcy Coates and so many will come up. But the other one that I really like just because I felt like it was a little bit different from her other books was called Hunted. It's about...
I love Hunted.
Yeah, it's really good. I really like the ending of Hunted. Like I felt like she stuck the ending with that.
Yeah, that is a horror book that stuck its landing on the end. Oh,
yes,
I love it. You'll love it if you read it. It's got an ending that makes you go like, yeah, female power.
Yes,
it's good.
And it has in a weird way, it kind of reminded me of The Ritual by Adam Neville, but better. But it has that like concept of like you're in the woods, you're lost, and something is after you, and you don't know what it is. But maybe this is a controversial take. I thought it was way better than The Ritual.
Did they ever show you the movie yet?
Of The Ritual?
The Ritual. No.
I read the book.
You need to watch the movie because the movie's actually phenomenal. I've heard the movie's even better. I haven't read the book. I am not an Adam Neville person. I've tried 2 of them, DNF'd one, finished the other one reluctantly. So I think he has great ideas. I think he has great setups to his ideas. And then he has a bit of that Stephen King problem where then like he just rambles off with it sometimes.
Yeah, I've read a couple. I've tried because like
she's tried more than me.
Yeah, because what I'll do is I'll like look up horror books and then I'll read like the synopsis of these Adam Neville books. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be my jam. And then like the beginning is awesome, and then the middle is just like, what is happening? Yep. Nothing typically is what is happening. Anyway,
yeah. So
that's my rant. Go ahead.
All right. What are we doing? Special mention, right? Yeah. Okay. So, oh my God, I can't remember his name. Maybe you can look it up while I'm talking about it. The book I'm going to talk about is called Hex. This book's actually popped up on a few different booktubers lists, so you might actually have already heard of it. I tried this one out, and I thought it was really cool. So the concept is there's this town, and this town, everyone in the town knows about her. There's a witch that roams and teleports around the town who was killed a long time ago, but she's back as a spirit or whatever. Yeah. And they just know about her, but they keep it hidden from the rest of the world. Like there in the beginning, the prologue of the book, who wrote it?
Thomas something Dutch. His last name is Dutch. Thomas.
Yeah, there's a sequel actually. Really? It's not a direct sequel. It deals with the organization that helped keep her hidden. I need to check that out. Anyways, cool. Everyone who lives in the town knows about the witch. And so, like, in the beginning of the book, like, this family's eating dinner, and then, they're talking, and then one of the kids looks aggravated, and the dad's like, just ignore her, because the witch is just chilling in their kitchen.
No, thank you.
And her, like, eyes are stitched up and stuff like that. Like, it's scary. And so you're, like, they just have to go about, and then after a while, she just leaves. They're not allowed to touch her. they're not allowed to leave town. Actually, once you move there, you can't leave because there's this weird curse with the witch that everyone who has tried to move away from the town has committed suicide. And it's what is going on. And so, like, you have this cool story between just the interestingness of, like, what is this witch? Why is she here? Why does she keep this town the way it is? But you also have the story between old and young, where you have the young rebellion kids, the teenagers who are ticked off at their parents for moving to this town and never giving them the ability to leave. They never get to go experience life. They never get to travel the world and all that. And so a group of the teenagers start to push some of those boundaries with the witch. Some in ways that make sense, some in ways that make you uncomfortable.
Oh.
And then the last 10% of the book is absolute carnage candy. Like, it goes crazy at the end. I had a fun time with it. So Hex might be a fun one for you to start with. As my special mention, it could just be an interesting one. Real quick before we sign off, we talked about a lot of authors today. Like we said, horror can be one of those genres where you might want to look by author more than by title. So you might, if you find an author you like, I would stick with them for a while. Just like bounce around their little catalog. We talked about Ronald Malfi, Darcy Coates. A lot of people like Frieda McFadden. I know she's more of a thriller, but she's successful for a reason. Mm-hmm. So if you've never read anything in the genre, you might want to look at one of her books.
Yeah, I'm a big reader, so I was kind of skeptical to try Frieda McFadden, but I will say, like, I've done a couple of audiobooks. It's a nice one just to put on while you're cleaning the house or, like, doing chores because they're entertaining. Like, it's like literary trash. Like, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Trash. I know, I hate using the word trash.
No, it's not trash because it's
I know what you mean, though. Literary, it's like literary smut, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. It's like
literary B-horror.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Yeah, there we go. B-horror. It's a horror list. You know, the kind of horror where you don't have to be 100% invested because, like, you can catch the main points pretty quick. So, she's done Riley Sager. I have not. I tried one. I got bored. I'll maybe pick it up again at some point. Now, there are some quirky authors you could try, and I write the word quirky heavy here. Grady Hendrix, I know I recommended Final Girl Support Group. You'll hear about his stuff a lot.
I did My Best Friend's Exorcism.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
How to Sell a Haunted House,
I didn't like that one.
Horror Store, and a few other. He just came out with a new one recently, and then there's the Southern Girl Vampire. I liked that one. That one was interesting. It's a vampire support group or something. But the thing about Grady Hendrix is he's an acquired taste.
Yes.
He's got this humor to him and stuff like that, that if you don't like it, you're not going to like his books because it's in all of them. So, he's one. Paul Tremblay is one people talk about. I tried A Head Full of Ghosts.
I liked A Head Full of Ghosts.
She liked A Head Full of Ghosts. I bounced off of it. I got bored. I might need to try physically reading it. I did audio. Maybe for me, if the audio narrator isn't catching my attention, I DNF until I pick it up physically. T. Kingfisher is another quirky one. So,
if you don't like her humor, you're not really going to like her books.
Stephen King and Joe Hill are also quirky. Like, Stephen King is the biggest horror writer, and I've read The Stand, Salem's Lot. I've read most of it. Like I said, I quit because I was like, I've already seen this before. Cujo, Misery. What else? Long Walk, Running Man. I've read a few of the bigger ones. I did the Gunslinger too. Like, he's just an oddball. Like, you have to get into what he does, and you have to accept that somewhere in that book, somebody's butthole is getting violated. Doesn't matter. I'm not playing about this. Like, I am not playing about it. And Joe Hill especially too. Joe Hill just came out with King Sorrow. I thought, what's the other one he did?
Heart-Shaped Box.
Heart-Shaped Box was pretty good. Did Nosferatu. Those were all fun. Someone's butthole's getting violated in them though. So I'm just playing. Like, Stephen King and Joe Hill just do some weird things sexually in their books that it comes out of nowhere most of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't understand why this is necessary. Like, it'd be different if it was necessary, although it's never really necessary. But I know I talked earlier about how you should be uncomfortable, but maybe not confused at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, and then Stephen Graham Jones is an author I did not bring up on this list. I love Stephen Graham Jones, but he is quirky. He puts a narrative framework to all of his books. Yes. And if you do not like the narrative framework, you're gonna bounce off bad. A lot of people say to start with My Heart is a Chainsaw for him, or you might start with Night of the Mannequins. That's a novella he did. It's kind of interesting. I actually would recommend starting with I Was a Teenage Slasher. I think I got the title right. I'll put it up there. That one was kind of a fun one. It's about a kid who inherits becoming a slasher, and he's aware that he's becoming a slasher. And so he's trying to figure out a way not to be the slasher. He's trying to figure out a way to not chase down the final girl who's his friend. And my favorite thing about the book is it makes fun of the slasher trope that every time a slasher picks up a weapon in a movie, you hear the shing. And it's hilarious because at one point he literally like picks up a pencil and it's like shing. And he picks up a pen and he's like shing. He's like, this is stupid. You know? What movie did that recently where they had it was one of the Scream movies. It bothered the hell out of me. There's the last Scream movie.
Oh.
The guy, the Ghostface grabs his knife and does the signature Ghostface thing where he wipes the blade. But he wipes the blade, and for some reason, the editor of the movie put in the sound effect of drawing a knife. So he was like, shing! And I was like, that would not make that sound. And it was so obvious. I was like, this is supposed to be a high-budget movie. What is going on here? Anyway, sorry, ramble over. So anyways, those are some authors you could try out. Those are our go-to horror recommendations for people. Then you just branch out from there, figure out your comfort food. I'm continuing constantly to move into horror. I'm trying Clive Barker right now. I want to try Ania Allborn.
Yes, that I read Seed in like a day, and that was good. So I want to try some more for stuff.
So what I would recommend for horror, figure out what you like.
Yeah.
And then Reddit is great for, I want books like this. Reddit will give you lists. Mm-hmm. So my next horror video I'm thinking about doing is maybe zombie books. Just a whole thing on zombie books, because I'm a zombie guy. So I want to talk about zombie literature. But if you have any other ideas of videos you want to hear about, put them in the comments. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm currently self-publishing my fantasy book. I'll talk about that in a later video. I'm working on some last details. I got my buddy to do the cover art for me, and it's so good. I love it. So same person who did Damien's When Roots Drink Deep, which actually, that could be a good starter horror book too. Yeah. Here we go. When Roots Drink Deep by Damien Tweedy. Go check that out. It's a fun little novella that explores depression, grief, and weird stuff happening in the woods outside of a cabin. Yep. So, anyways, stay nerdy. I'm going to sign off as the first victim in the horror movie.
And the final girl.
See you later.